good of you to join us this afternoon. What do you make of the event so far today?
Well, I want to start by saying a march for a ceasefire on a day dedicated to armistice or ceasefire, in my view, couldn't be more appropriate. And also, just to clear the air, the Palestine issue isn't a religious issue. It's a national liberation struggle. It's a human rights issue. Palestinians are fighting for the same rights you have, Peter.
You must be very annoyed then, Ahmed, you must be very annoyed then that there are, of course, many, many peaceful protesters today in London, but there are some who have broken the law. There are some who have shouted for jihad, for example. There are some who have used Palestinian flags to bounce the effigies of dead babies, and there are some who don't seem to accept that Hamas are terrorists.
Peter, what I'm very annoyed about is that I got 12 words into my answer and you cut me off and started talking about jihad and dead babies, even though that's been proven false. I'd appreciate if you give me the time out of respect to make my point.
Sorry, what's been proven false? Sorry, what's been proven false?
Can I make my point? Can I speak?
Well, I just want to clarify what you're saying is false.
I would like to clarify if you will let me make my point.
Okay, go ahead.
Dispelling the deliberate misconception that these protests calling for a ceasefire in Gaza are singular or exclusive or about hate or jihad babies or Palestinian flags, which seem to scare you, is very critical. So I'm happy to be here.
Sorry, you don't know that. Sorry, that's
you said. Can I make my point?
Well, if you just be fair in what you're saying, you're assuming. Excuse me. Sorry, you're assuming a lot of things about my perspective that you don't know. I'm letting you speak.
You put words in my mouth, interrupted me, and assumed a lot, and your viewers will judge. Can I just? Did you bring me here to insult me and assume things?
I don't think I'm insulting
words
you.
In my mouth, or do you want me to explain to you my views on the protest?
I just want you to answer my question.
I don't want to argue with you. I will answer your question. You asked me about the protest. Let me explain my point, please. I appreciate it. You said earlier you hope things don't go horribly wrong today in London and that they're not so far. So I'd like to draw your attention to where things have gone horribly wrong. In Gaza, genocide is horribly wrong. Ethnic cleansing is horribly wrong. Bombing hospitals, as we've seen in the last 24 hours, is horribly wrong. And not allowing me to make these points is equally wrong. So the reason I think protests, let me just finish in 20 seconds. The reason I think the protests should be happening today and every day is because every day brings with it real massacres, killing real human beings, civilians, and it's all being documented on video. Now, I want to answer you specifically about, the massive protests we've seen in the last month in London. Almost 500,000 people a week ago are made up of a wide range of people from all walks of life, including British Muslims, and many, many Jewish people. And when they're labeled as haters or, as you said, jihadists, or that the Palestinian...
No, sorry. No, got to stop you there. I did not label the people on the march as jihadists. I said that there had been... Excuse me, if you let me speak this time, maybe you let me speak this time. There were a small number of people who shouted jihad. There were a small number of people who had Hamas, were clearly supporting Hamas. I'm not saying for a second that tens of thousands of people... Sorry, you're not letting me speak now, okay?
We can agree. And there are also equally, as you've discussed, a small number of people who are yelling Nazi slogans and anti-Semitic slogans and anti-Islamic slogans. And so what I'm saying is it's precisely this very broad cross-community representation that gives these marches their impact and that makes politicians like the Home Secretary uncomfortable. The people protesting in London, DC, and capitals around the world are not protesting in support of Hamas or, as the Home Secretary called it, a hate march. They're protesting for precisely what this weekend is about: armistice, ceasefire, and humanity.
Are they having any impact?
Must stop spreading hate by creating tribal rivalries, which is exactly what the Home Secretary is doing. And your panelists alluded to this. The real disrespect to the armistice is the weaponization of remembrance as part of the British government's wider cultural war, which is what you guys were discussing before you brought me on. As you know, this weekend is about history. History tells us that British mobilization against injustice works. From Wilberforce's anti-slave campaign to the battle for women's suffrage. Think of the anti-apartheid movement, Peter, a global force that toppled South Africa's apartheid regime. It showcased
You've mentioned a lot of people, Ahmed. You've mentioned a lot of causes there. I don't think so far in this interview, I could be wrong, but I don't think so far in this interview you've mentioned the 239 hostages that Hamas took. I don't think you've mentioned the Israeli civilians who have had a horrendous impact because of what Hamas has done. There are many people who think that they should be remembered in all of this.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting they shouldn't, but I'm here to speak about moments ago, the Palestine Red Crescent chief told the UN Security Council that Gaza's hospitals are being deliberately targeted. I never hear you speaking about that.
We've talked about it many times. We've talked about it many times on my programs.
Well, when I've been on your program, I've had to discuss why the hospitals are being bombed by Israel and prove that it's not being misfires or Hamas bombing them. Can I just make a point about what is actually happening on the ground, since you do not have journalists on the ground in Gaza?
Well, we do actually, so that's wrong as well. So you've said a number of things that are factually inaccurate within this interview.
You have journalists in Gaza?
Yes. We've been talking to people in Gaza. We've been talking to people right across the Middle East. We've been getting information, and we are using agency footage and so on, and finding out what is happening.
I'm glad that you're doing that. You know why? Because the Shifa hospital director says that they're not only losing lives by the minute, they're not only encircled by tanks, they're not only having to not be able to save babies that are on incubators because the electricity has been cut off. I don't know if you're aware, Peter, Israel has struck multiple hospitals, including Al-Shifa, the largest medical complex.
Yes, I am aware of that because I watch the news, but thank you. Yeah, it's a horrendous thing. I hope it wouldn't happen. Yeah.
Are seeking refuge from Israel's assault. They have no power, no water, no electricity. There are patients in the ICU and 37 newborns that are at risk of losing their lives. What have they done to deserve this?
Absolutely nothing. They have done absolutely nothing.
Israel has killed more than 11,000
Any chance you're going to stop talking? Any chance you're going to stop talking?
4,500 of them are children, Peter. 4,500 of them are children.
Is that based on Hamas figures, or how do you know that? How do you know that?
Wow. Wow.
What are those figures based on? I want to be accurate in this.
What are they based on? The Gaza Health Ministry, which, if you read The Guardian,
which is run by Hamas, So what I'm saying is, we want to be accurate in this. We've made a number of. Sorry, are you going to let me talk at all? Are you going to let me talk at all? Are you going to let me say a single word? Okay.
Well, if you want to misinform your audience, go ahead.
I'm not misinforming my audience. What I'm saying is that I don't want any child to die. I don't want any innocent civilian to die. If Hamas
why are you not condemning when Israel...
Sorry, are you going to let me get to the end of my sentence? I'm sorry, are you going to let me...
Peter, with all due respect to you, the fact that you are cutting me off to ask me
about
Hamas...
You're not respecting me at all. You're not respecting me at all.
4,500 children are being killed and you're Hamasing me is very offensive. And quite frankly, makes me question what your motive is by interrupting me. Did you interrupt your other two guests?
You're not letting me make a very basic... I've tried 4 times now.
Did you interrupt them? Did you interrupt them? Why are you interrupting me?
Yes, I did. Can I please make my point? Can I please talk for 10 seconds? Yeah. Okay?
And then we're going to...
Can I talk for 10 seconds without being interrupted? Is that possible? Okay, great. What I'm saying is that I don't want any child, any innocent civilian, anyone in Gaza. Look, I'm not going to shed too many tears if Hamas terrorists die, but if there are any child dying is absolutely horrendous, whether it's in Gaza, whether it's in Israel, wherever. Any child in conflict, don't want that to happen. You quoted a figure of 4,500. That's fair enough to quote, but what I'm saying is we have to be accurate, and those figures are from Hamas-controlled the Hamas-controlled health ministry.
And The Guardian and many other reputable news organizations have said that historically, in all of the clashes, as you call them clashes, in all of the wars, can I just make my point in response to your point? I let you speak. That the Gaza Health Ministry has a long history of being very accurate. Why is Israel not letting in the United Nations or any independent investigators a month in?
Okay,
you really don't believe these numbers.
Well, we'll continue to ask those questions.
Why did they kill 100 UN staffers, Peter?
Okay, we're going to ask those questions. I am not responsible for the Israeli government, but thank you very much indeed.
You're not responsible for them, but you know what? I'm not responsible for Hamas either.
Nor have I ever said that you were. Thank you very much.
Reveals a lot more about your views, and you keep referring to yourself while I'm here to talk about innocent civilians dying.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed. I don't think he's ever going to stop talking, but thank you very much indeed. Coming up after the break, we'll be bringing you the very latest